Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello,
How are
guys.
we doing today?
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome.
how's everybody?
Welcome, Todd Fathers, joining us today. We're very happy to have a fourth panel member, so thank you for joining. And I want to just say hello to the folks in the chat before we dive right into things. Adam, BK Skip, Maureen. Anybody else? There was someone else here before. Mike F was here before I saw. All right. We're starting off slow but steady, which is always the case. But all right. So today's scene, and by the way, before I do that, I have my tea ready because I always drink tea while we do this.
Coffee.
But Theendu's on location, but he's still on panel, so that's all that matters. And today's scene, we're gonna do. It's actually 3 scenes when you think about it. It's the first scene is Michael and the Godfather in the garden, sitting there talking. That's number 1. Number 2 is when the Godfather actually passes away. And then the final scene, which is probably the most pivotal scene, is, and the shock, that's where the shock happens, I guess, is the funeral itself at the gravesite. So we're going to start off with that scene with Michael and the Godfather. The Godfather is retired at this point. He's just spending his days drinking wine and playing with his grandson. Basically, that's what he's doing. He has turned the reins over to Michael, but he's kind of serving as consigliere because if you remember, there is no consigliere at this point because Michael had removed Tom, the consigliere, and he says, when he does that, what better consigliere do I need than my father? I have my father. So basically, the Don moves from being the Don to a consigliere to the new generation, which is Michael. And hold on a second. Let me show you something here real quick. This scene right here. This is the scene when he's basically talking to his father and talking about advice about the family and everything else. And the Godfather, we see the Godfather repeating himself here, saying things over and over again, concerned about Michael, wanting to make sure he understands that the person that approaches him is going to be the traitor to the family. That's the person that's going to propose some type of deal is going to be the traitor. And it's interesting because at this time, the Godfather doesn't know he's going to die, but he anticipates that this is going to happen. And as we see, that doesn't actually happen till after he dies. But with this scene, what do you guys think about this in terms of what does this scene about Michael and his development compared to his father and his father taking a back seat and him taking the front seat? What do you think about that?
Who do you want to go first? You got to speak.
Go ahead, Sticks. You can go first.
Okay, it was an interesting scene, a great scene. It's kind of weird because, Don Corleone is advising him, and Michael's trying to reiterate, I have it. I got it. I know, Pop. You told me that already. But he is trying to be the best advisor to him that he could ever ask for or ever need. So he's trying to school him, but he's trying to be fatherly at the same. So he's being business and fatherly at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's being godfatherly and fatherly at the same time.
Right.
It's perfect. I do think the way things were going and what we see in, like you said, in this third scene, which was insane, the third scene of these 3, he got everything he needed to know from that conversation. Mm-hmm. Tom could not have advised him on this situation right here. There's no way. Experience is what led Don Corleone to give Michael that 100% accurate advice. Incredible.
Yeah.
That's what I saw. That's what I
absolutely.
Yeah, I think he's trying to just go over everything because that is his baby boy, and he didn't want this for him ultimately. You know what I mean? And he's making sure he's, he's got to make sure that he's going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's and Michael's more than confident, and he knows. I think that Don knows that Michael is fully capable, and there's no better person to replace him at that point. So
Right.
Yeah.
Dean, what's your take on this?
Same thing. Father, son, sit down.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that could be said. Picking each other's brains.
Right.
Michael doing what he's gonna do, no matter what. The old man just going like this, hoping the best. You could
Right.
see it, you know.
You know, it's an interesting part of this scene is you see the Godfather lamenting about Michael being in this role. That's when you that feeling comes out where he says, "I never wanted this for you. I wanted Senator Corleone, Governor Corleone." You know, it's such an emotional point there because you're seeing the Godfather's vulnerability there, that he really wanted his son out of this. He wanted his son to be better than this. And unfortunately, he sees the need that Michael had to step into. Sonny's
Yep.
dead. Fredo is a waste, and Michael had to step in. And he realizes that, but he still laments that because he wanted something better for his son. That's the
Right.
father as opposed to the Godfather there, right? The Godfather knows. The Godfather knows it's the right thing. But the father in him is saying, why did this have to happen this way?
But Dean, you probably caught this one when all of you probably caught. But he says, yeah, they're all peasants, though. How does he say it in Italian? Peasant. What's the word?
Presidente.
Pesanovans.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what he
Yes.
said when he was saying,
Presidente.
Doctor, Michael, Senator. What?
Mhm.
He said,
But he
Michael,
told me-
I wanted you to be, doctor, senator, not a presidente of this, world.
Right.
and that's the thing. Even though the Don was a powerhouse, in many aspects, he still wanted better in his eyes for him, just like we want for all of
yeah.
our kids. You know what I mean? We want
Yep.
our kids to supersede us in positive ways, obviously. You know what I mean? So,
Right. And it goes back to what we talked about in previous shows, how the Godfather really is he is a superhuman type of character, because how many gangsters do you see? And I'm not saying that they don't want best for their children, but how many gangsters do you see having this conflict within them like this? You don't see that in the real world, but here the Godfather really is the hero here. He built this empire because he had to, not because he wanted quick wealth or anything like that. He built this empire because he came to America as a child, had no choice. This is what he had to do to survive and protect his family, and that's what he did. So it goes back and it all ties together there a bit. And so Michael, so this is interesting because the book is a little different. There's no garden scene like this in the book. The conversation happens in the office with the Don and Michael, and that traditional office scene that we saw. And the part about "I never wanted this for you" is not in the book. At least it's not at that scene. It's not there. But I think it's good that they did it there. I think it works very well. It shows the complexity of the character. It's perfect. It's perfect where it was placed in there. I think it's said earlier in the book, but I think it's great how Coppola put it where he did in that.
and even if it wasn't said, I'm sure you can feel it and see it. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
The conversation was not had in the book.
The conversation was not there was no garden conversation like that
No.
between
Really?
Michael and the Don. No.
I didn't get that far in the audio book.
No.
Pivotal. Very
Yeah.
needed for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, they had to kill that 2 hours too,
Yeah.
at that end there.
Yeah.
And here's another interesting fact that I think it's I wrote this down because it was a year after. Now this is interesting. It's a year after the meeting with Michael and Clemenza and the Godfather and Hagen that we talked about last time. It's a year after, according to the book, when this happens, when the Godfather actually dies. So you don't get that from this movie. It kind of looks like it's like, right after, but it's actually a year that passes. And in that time, the Godfather has a minor heart attack and is kind of sick for he's in bed for months and stuff like that. So it kind of the book kind of prepares you for the death of him more than the movie. The movie, it just kind of happens.
Okay. So they show you what leads up to it. They just don't
Yeah.
show you that scene.
Right.
Interesting.
Now, this is another interesting part. Now, we all remember when Michael's wife was killed because of the bomb in Sicily.
Yeah.
And I think we touched on this before, but Fabrizio, where is Fabrizio at this point in time? Fabrizio is where you guys are from. Fabrizio is in Buffalo at this point.
Yeah,
at a little pizzeria.
Yep. At the
Crazy.
pizzeria.
Wow.
And that
I
comes
think
up.
I think I worked with Fabrizio.
I think he worked for Toddfather. Toddfather fired him. That was the problem.
Couldn't keep up.
But that comes up because when he's in the book, at least it comes up. It comes up in the book because Michael is talking to the Don. He's talking about a bunch of different things, and the Don brings that up. Where is Fabrizio? Is he the shepherd? And that, in other words, did you figure out who the bomb guy was? Who was it that planted it? And he says, yes, it's Fabrizio, and he was in Buffalo. I'll visit him soon, so to speak. I'll take care of him soon. And the Godfather warns him at that point to stick to business. That's an emotional. Revenge is an emotional thing, and he actually says, "Revenge is a dish better served cold," which is a traditional saying. We hear that, but the Godfather actually says that to Michael, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was good.
And in the book also, the Don knows about the plot to kill the heads of the 5 families. You don't really get that from the movie, but in the book, he does know. He does know about that.
Didn't you say Sonny was planning that at some point?
Sonny had planned it when the Godfather was sick, and when he first got shot, Sonny had planned it. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So, now here's another thing from the book that's a little different. Mo Green does not get killed when the rest of the heads get killed. So in the book, it happens now. It happens at this time that Mo Green gets killed. It's a separate thing completely than everybody else. But I think it's better. It's better that it's part of the whole thing in the movie. It makes more sense to me. It made it more dramatic too. He's taking care of all the family business. But anyway, so that's the garden scene, and
but that is a good point. Think about that, ALV. Mo Green wasn't a boss. And
right.
They threw him in with the bosses
right.
in the movie. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's because he had pushback on Michael. So I think it was anybody at that point who pushed back on him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know we touched on this too before about how we were discussing who Mo Green would have been based on in real life. And it really is Bugsy Siegel, because the way he's killed in the books is exactly the way Bugsy Siegel's killed in real life. So it's an exact replica. Mo Green is a replica of Bugsy Siegel. Let me just take a break and say hello to some folks that have stopped in. Let's see. We have Antonella. Good to see you. Emmanuel Spatato. El Toro is in the house. Good to see you guys. Mike F is back. Good to see everyone.
Skipper, you missed me?
Skipper, yes, Skipper's here. Yep.
Skipper. Maureen.
See no evil.
Where the fungo knows where he is? Where is he right now?
He's here.
He's pawning a dartboard.
Is he here? Okay. He's on the other side of the street over there.
Anyway, so that's the scene with the Godfather. So now let's move on to the next scene, which is the Godfather tending to his vegetables, his tomatoes. He loves gardening. The book makes a big deal out of that, how he takes such joy from gardening. And and that to me, that is like the glaring Italian culture. Everybody knows that. As we grew up, gardening was in everybody's backyard. It was just what everyone did. So,
Still is.
and it still is, correct.
He
Right.
still is
right.
with us.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a basil plant next to a telephone light on the street.
There you go. Exactly. He does it where he can do it. Right. We find a
culture.
way.
It's our
Find a
culture.
way.
It's going to happen.
I don't plant the vegetables. I just distribute them. That's all.
You just deliver them. Yeah.
Yeah, I just inspect them and deliver them.
Mm-hmm.
Todd
On
Father's the
trailers.
huckster. You're the huxter. You bring it through the neighborhood. Yep.
I don't want to look at vegetables when I leave the building.
I know.
So, let alone
I know.
plant them. So
I know. So look at this picture right here. This is from the movie.
Oh yeah, look at that garden with the sheets as the roof.
Yep.
Wow.
That's the sheet roof, right? That's
Yeah.
blowing in the wind. Like how common is that, right?
That's great right there. That picture. That was my grandfather. That was my grandfather's garden to a T.
And look how high they are. How tall they've grown.
Yep.
I don't let my tomatoes grow that high. I keep them tamed. Those look like they're 6-7 feet tall.
I know.
they're higher than
I've
the
never
fence.
seen them that tall.
Yeah.
A little tidbit about the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
The sheet was, I think, typically used, if I remember correctly, at the high points of the sunshine of the day in order to stop them from burning.
Yes.
I think they put it on from 12 to 3 or something like that,
Mhm.
Right.
and then took it off. So that really tells you how passionate. When you are actually out there putting a sheet on for 3 hours a day,
You forgot
And then
one
removing
other
it.
thing. You forgot one other thing.
I'm removing it.
It kept from the sun. It kept from the birds too.
The birds
It was
too,
a
yeah.
set up
Yeah.
scarecrow. The
Yeah.
birds wouldn't go near the sheet.
Because it's waving, right?
Yup.
Right.
But they needed the sun in the morning and in the afternoon, so they tried to work that middle. It's crazy.
Yep.
Now, it's interesting. The book actually talks to that and says that about the heat, like the importance of the heat, and how the sun, it was so important, and everybody who gardens knows this. You never water the plants at midday because the sun will boil the plants. The
Fry
water
'em.
on the plants will
You'll
boil
fry
them.
them.
And it was
Yep.
crucial for the Godfather to get up early to water it in the morning. That's what he would do, and they even bring that up that was such an important part of it.
Oh, I can't wait to get to that part.
Mhm.
I didn't get to that part yet in the book. I can't. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. All right. So that's the garden, and we see the Godfather in his little hat and his he's casual. He's hanging out with his grandson in the garden, and he's playing with him. He's playing about. Oh, this is another interesting fact they talk about, that the Godfather was looking to see if there were ants in the garden because the ants meant that there were lice on
Yes.
the plants. And he would have to get the pesticide out. And we see, little Anthony with the pesticide.
With the pesticide.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
He
wanted
was
to ask
squirting
you
the
about that.
Godfather
Okay.
with it when he
Yes.
passed down,
Hold
Yeah.
on. Let me see. I have. Let me see. I tried to find a picture of that. Where is it? Here we go.
Ah. Oh, that's when he had the orange pills in his mouth.
Right.
That was
Let me ask a question while this is on my mind. So you've related to the fact that there's always oranges in the presence of upcoming death.
Yes.
So do you think that's had any part of him doing that?
Planted
yeah.
Putting the orange. Like, is there any tie with that? You think even?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Really?
Sure,
Yeah.
we
All
know
right,
he's going to
okay,
die.
Yeah.
We know we kind of know he's going to pass eventually.
He
I would
died.
never put that together without
Yeah,
watching
okay.
the
He
show
died.
and learning
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, there's a meaning there, Todd. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Godfather.
Yeah.
He put the pills in his mouth, played with the kid, then he had the massive heart attack.
Right. That's what I mean.
Oranges
That's
are- yeah.
I never put that together. You know what I
Well,
mean?
we
It's-
know. Yes.
okay.
It's all by design. It's all related. Yes, sir.
Wow. Okay.
No, and that's a great point, Godfather.
It is
You
a great
don't
point.
look for
Great
that.
question. Great
If you don't
question.
look for that, you're not going to know it.
I mean,
right?
it's in his mouth. It's not
Yeah.
on the table. It's
Right.
it's him playing a spoof and
Mhm.
boom. So
Good
Right.
question. Good question.
So he has this, he goes to play with he goes run, and he's going to chase him around, and they're, he's this is what he enjoys doing at this point in his life, playing with his grandson. And now the difference here, now we see the Godfather, he has the massive heart attack and he falls down in the tomatoes and basically dies on the scene. But in the book, what happens is Michael comes running over. Michael's there. Michael is actually there, and some other people are there. I think Tom Hagen is there also. They come running towards him to try to help him, and he opens his eyes and he says one last thing. He says one last thing to them, and he says, "Life." I think he says, "Life is beautiful." I think that's what it was. Godfather, you sent me this quote. It was. Godfather, you sent me this quote. It was.
hang on,
It
you have
was.
it?
Let me see. Yeah, where is it? Hold
He
on.
smelled the garden, the yellow shield of the light smote his eyes, and he whispered, "Life is so beautiful."
Life
Yes,
is so beautiful. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Life is so
Yes, he
beautiful.
thought if I can die saying life is beautiful, then nothing else is important.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Right.
in the book.
Wow.
Right. It shows that he was content what he had accomplished in life, and then he was just so happy to be where he was when he died, with his family there, his grandson there, doing gardening, like just the basics, the basic rudimentary things. He's this big godfather, he's this big powerful man, but when the end comes, the most rudimental and basic simple things are the most important things to him.
Yeah.
And it could have happened in such a way worse way from
Mhm.
what he was involved in, and how many people didn't like him or whatever, or were jealous. It could have
Right.
ended much more worse.
He could have died on the street. He could have died right on the street where Fredo in front of him, back then he could have died there. But he was lucky enough to survive that. And he knows that, Hi, Gina. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Edwin.
Hi, Gina.
Sir Edwin in the house. All right. So the death happens, and we have, and the book tells you this. You don't see this, but Bonacetta is the Undertaker, of course, right? He's the Undertaker.
Sad.
And they have the wake in the house. Like, this is not in the movie at all, but they have the wake in the house, which to me is interesting. And I guess it was common. It was kind of common then too. A lot of wakes still took place in houses at that time.
Yeah.
I
can say I've never been to a wake in somebody's house.
Well,
No.
neither have I. That was before
Never.
that was before all of our time here. That was like, I think in the 40s was when that kind of went out, in the 40s.
The old funeral homes were houses in our area. All
Yeah.
funeral homes were houses.
Yeah.
They're houses. They are houses still.
Right.
Around here, they are. It's weird.
Well, as far as laying the person out in their own house
Yeah.
for the wake, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, wasn't Michael's mother also laid out in the house in the movie though?
Yes, that's Godfather
Yeah.
2. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna
All right.
make me think. Now I really got to think if I was ever at a funeral in a house.
I know I never was. I think that
No?
was before our time. That was before
I've
our
been
time.
to so many. I have to think. I really do.
Yeah. So who are the pallbearers? The pallbearers are Clemenza, Tessio, Fredo, Michael. Those are like the main pallbearers, and Tom Hagen. That's what the book tells us. All right. And so, the wake comes, and then we end up going to the cemetery. That's what the movie shows us. The movie shows us the actual burial, the actual burial in the cemetery. And this scene is such a pivotal scene because it reveals multiple things here. It reveals, and I'll let you guys talk too, but I'll just say it reveals obviously the traitor is. It also reveals, in my opinion, the value of who's in that scene is Michael's nuclear family, basically. The people you see there are the people that are important to him. And I think that's what it's conveying, because in that scene, you can only see, I mean, there's thousands of people or hundreds of people there. But in that scene, you only see the people sitting around Michael, and they are the most important people. And who's the person sitting closest to Michael? Tom Hagen. So although Tom Hagen was taken out of things, now he's back in the fold somewhat because of the circumstances. So I don't know. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of that?
ALV. That's when you get introduced to Neary, the new bodyguard. You remember? He walks up and starts taking care of everybody for him. That's the first time you see him.
Right.
And there's a change of power and muscle because he's in charge of the new hit squad.
Right.
There's a lot going on. Excuse me. There's a lot going on in that scene. It's like the pot lid is like boiling. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's ready to just blow off because all these people are ready to pounce, or they think they are at least.
Right.
They're all giving each other eyes at that funeral. You know what I mean? There's a lot
everybody's
going on.
Jockeying for positions, right? In that funeral,
there's a lot going on silently there.
Nobody wants to give away their position. No one wants to give away what they're thinking or anything that would lead someone to think what they actually think, right? That's the big thing there. Yet they all have to put on the face of showing respect. They all have to be there. It's expected.
There's so much going on there. It comes to, everything that they spoke about in the garden happens, right? Obviously, we know that. You got people in mourning. You got people thinking business. There's so much going on in that half hour right there.
You know what they say?
There's people on two different mindsets, two different. They're worlds away with what they're thinking about at that funeral. Whereas if we go to a funeral, we mourn, we throw the rose, we leave, and that's it. Over there, you have just probably 5 different types of life changes being thought about, discussed, and the women are all in mourning, as it's just
sure.
And Tom sitting next to him was where Tom needed to be. I have no surprise in Tom sitting there. He didn't just destroy Tom; he just moved him out of the way because he felt like he needed to concentrate on going forward at that moment under the guidance of his dad, of his father. He wanted the fatherly. Like we said before about the fatherly and godfatherly, he needed that fatherly advice going forward. So Michael knew where they were coming up to, and that's who he needed. And he couldn't have distractions, so he couldn't have opposing views. Tom might have one idea of how to guide Michael, and the Don may have another idea of how to guide Michael. And Michael made a great decision because he didn't want them to collide. He wanted to take it all from his father, not from someone with less experience. So everything happens at this funeral based on the conversation of the scene we just spoke about.
Right.
Tom sitting there was no surprise.
This is interesting. Here's a comment by See No Evil. He says Tom Hagen was the only one he truly trusted and privy to the family secrets and the way they handled the business, which is absolutely correct.
The great comment that goes along with him not just getting rid of him altogether, but not wanting to conflict himself. So that's exactly right. And that's why when he died, he's sitting right next to him. He's right there.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, do you think that Michael wanted to keep him closer because of the whole Fredo thing, letting Fredo go all that way away? You know what I mean? And getting,
I don't think he ever wanted to get him out of the way. I think he wanted him just to let the Don and Michael get through this critical point in the family business.
Yeah, but I think he's and maybe still brought him in a little bit back, just so like Fredo got to go to Vegas and he made all new friends, and then he thought he was entitled to something, and then you know what I mean. So obviously, what happened with Fredo, he didn't, I think obviously Tom was held in higher regard.
Yeah,
but just the same, he wanted to keep him, close.
Yeah.
Well, that just goes to show you how fucked up and naive Fredo was.
Right.
He thought that they owed him something.
Yeah.
You know, in his head, you know, the family owed him something, but in reality, they did him a favor, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
They did him a big favor, giving him a job, making him money, and he did whatever he wanted to do. But he didn't realize that, Fredo. He thought they did it to get rid of him, which they did, but they took care of him when they did it. It's a different thing than just getting rid of him, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I think Fredo is the Godfather's biggest failure because you know, he sends him away. He doesn't want, he's upset with him about what went on. And he's also upset about the lifestyle he's living, and he sends him away. And this creates the bitterness in Fredo. You know, it creates that bitterness that comes back to haunt Michael, you know, because.
Yeah. Michael got it. Yeah. ALV, you're right. That's what happens, though. That's what happens in a family like that.
Right.
You know, bitterness, anger, stems from, you know, something else all the time. It's never direct on, you know.
And in the book, they tell you a little bit more because there's more conversations between the Don and Michael in the not in the garden. There's no garden scene, like I said, but and there's a lot more conversations in terms of the Don wanted Tom Hagen out of it for a purpose. He wanted Tom Hagen to be the default, and we see this in Godfather too. He wanted Tom to be the default lead if Michael ever needed him. And in order to do that, he had to insulate him so that he couldn't be influenced by anyone. He couldn't have information that he shouldn't have. You know, it was all a design for what eventually happens in Godfather 2. We see it happen in Godfather 2 where Michael has to disappear for a while. And it was all really the Don's advice. It wasn't Michael's advice. It was the Don's advice that he said, Michael, you need someone that you can trust, that's ready to step in, that knows what's going on, but is not tainted along the way. And so that's why they decide, Tom, you're going to be just the lawyer. You're just going to be the attorney. And then we see in the future that they need him to come and step back in. So it's really a stroke of genius when you think about it, what he did there.
Wow.
Now, when they're sitting there and people are coming up paying their respects, we see all of the characters there. We see Bozzini is there. You know, we have all of the people that hate the Corleones are at the funeral.
Are there?
They're there. You know, they're there.
Yeah.
They're putting on their faces.
They have to be what they don't want to be.
Right. And
you know what they say, wakes and funerals are nothing but broken promises, empty promises, and everybody that dislikes you disliked comes to go like this. Yep.
Yeah, true.
Yep. Wait, well, hold on a second. Just Chillin'. Let's see. We're Just Chillin' made a comment here. Michael represents how the culture you grew up in makes your destiny might be ironic, but it's what it is. Part of us, you can't escape the roots of the heart. It's very true. Very, very true.
Yeah.
So they're sitting there, and what does Tom Hagen say to Michael? What does he say? Do you know how they're going to come at you? Do you know how they're going to come at you? I mean, he knows. He knows what's going on. He knows now that the Don is gone. Right?
This is interesting.
Now that the Don is gone, they're going to try to end it. They're going to try to put the dagger in the heart of the Corleones. It's obvious. This is their chance. This is what they got to do, because half of the political connections are gone to begin with when the Don is gone. Because in the book, it even tells you that Tom Hagen asks Michael, have you picked up all the political connections of the Don? And he says, I'm not even close. I'm not even close to picking up all of them and establishing a personal relationship. And that's the key there, because the Don had personal relationships with every one of these people in power. And just think how massive an accomplishment that is, to have personal relationships with all these people, all these judges and politicians, to the point where they'll only deal with you. They're only going to deal with him.
So Michael didn't have the same amount of respect, or not even close yet.
No,
Right.
no,
Okay.
no, nothing.
Right.
But
you know how much work that takes, ALV?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
A lifetime of work. It's a
Starting-
lifetime
Yeah.
of work.
starting
Yeah.
over
And
again.
Michael's whole like reign up till now has only been, you said, a year. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So yeah,
That's
he's got
it.
a lot of catching up to do.
I mean, you're going from a year to 50, 60 years,
Right.
on the streets. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
But when you're saying Tom, that's interesting. When you're saying Tom, what Tom whispered, what Tom said to him, kind of makes you think Tom was good at what he does, and he kind of had the same mindset that the Don had.
Oh yeah.
He was
Oh, yeah.
there. He was there, and Michael might have underestimated his intelligence.
Yeah.
Or
Well, I don't think he underestimated his intelligence. I think he
on that
underestimated
aspect,
his value in that
Yeah.
context.
his
Yeah.
value on that aspect.
Yeah.
But he was in the room with the Don probably a lot more than Michael on,
Right.
with this stuff. So
He was.
I mean, he can only
Yeah.
only use him, obviously. So
Tom was in the room since he was a kid.
Mhm.
Michael was staying away from this thing.
Right.
So you're right.
And the book makes it very clear that the Don was grooming Tom Hagen, teaching him how to think. That's what he told him, to
Okay,
taught him
see?
how to think.
That
you know?
makes sense.
So, so it'd be foolish for Michael to just ignore Tom at this point. It would be completely foolish because of all the knowledge that he has.
Wow. Trained him right.
So Michael says, and the reason Michael says this, right? Michael says it's going to be the one that approaches me because the Don told him this. The Don knew this was the way that would happen. He knows this is how it's going to happen. Whoever comes to you with this is going to be the one. So as they're sitting there, what happens? Tessio walks up to Michael and says, "Michael, I need to talk to you." And they walk over to the side next to a tombstone or next to a statue there in the cemetery, right? And says, I can arrange a meeting on my territory. Shall I go ahead and do it? And that's all he had to say. That's all he had to say, right?
There it is.
And it's revealed. It's revealed that Tessio is the conduit. He's the guy they got to. Now,
It's revealed.
Why
It's
Tessio?
revealed. Yeah, it's revealed.
You guys tell me, why Tessio?
It's
Say it,
revealed and
Stiggs.
it's sealed. Huh?
Go ahead,
Say
Stig.
it.
Go ahead, Stig.
Say
You
it. We
go ahead.
found the rat.
Yeah.
Right. So it's sealed when Tessio not only offers to host it, when he offers to provide the protection. You know it's happening. It's a guarantee.
Right. Why Tessio? What do you think, Stiggs? Why do you think it was Tessio and not Clemenza?
Oh, Clemenza's no. I would just think he was. I can't say for sure why. Weakest link, maybe. I don't know.
What do you guys think? Thindo, what do you think? Why Tessio?
Tessio, like I said before, was the business, was the power. Clemenza wasn't smart enough for that. Clemenza was the lake breaker, the union thug, the killer. Right. He couldn't be bothered with what Tessio, another capo. It's just like everything else. Some run gambling, some run this, some run that.
Yeah.
You had the split there with them two guys. You never seen Tessio do a hit, did you?
No.
So Thindo, Clemenza knows his place and where he's effective. He's staying there.
Yeah. Bingo.
He didn't want that power. Power brings
He didn't
headache.
want that.
Yeah.
He wanted to
He was
stay
happy
under
with
the
his
Godfather till he died, breaking, killing.
He was good with what he did. He was content.
If Michael would have said Clemenza, okay, just stay with me, it would have been, he would have stayed with him like that. But Michael didn't need a guy like Clemenza anymore.
Well, he has Rocco and he has Neri.
Neri, Rocco, which were a little more in better shape and younger. That's my thought on it. Tessio was a little bit sharper.
What do you think, Todd?
Well, wasn't Clemenza like from day one with the Don when he came over?
Oh yeah, both of them were. Yep. Both of them.
Well, Tessio was together.
Tessio, yes. Tessio was there too.
Okay, all right. Well, then,
yeah.
I guess I'm going to have to agree with these guys said. I don't have any different answers.
They were together, just different capacities. They knew their place. Tessio wanted to move up, wanted power,
and Clemenza was totally content with being what he was.
Like
But
I
they did-
said the other night on Tommy's show, if you want to go and debate and argue, you call that guy. You want to break bones and fight, you call Tindall.
Right.
There's your split.
Yeah.
You know where you are. You know where you're effective and what you do best.
Yep. I know
Well-
I ain't gonna be able to do what that guy does, and I know he ain't gonna do what I do. So
I agree with you guys. I think you're absolutely right. And Tom Hagen asks Michael, and he brings it up, and he says, I never thought it would have been Tessio. I would have thought Clemenza, right? And Michael's response is, it's a smarter move. Tessio was always smarter.
there you go.
The question is, why is it smarter? Well, it's smarter because the Corleone family is moving out to the West Coast. They're leaving Tessio and Clemenza to themselves. Tessio has to, if he wants to survive, has to ingratiate himself to Bozzini. Otherwise, he's going to get eaten up.
Yeah.
You know, Clemenza's not that smart, doesn't realize it. All Clemenza knows is he hates Bozzini, right? That's all. I hate him. I can't stand him, you know. But Clemenza sees it as, if I don't do this deal, I'm going to get destroyed. You know, I'm going to get wiped. We're going to get wiped out.
Tessio.
Mm-hmm.
You mean Tessio, right?
I'm sorry, Tessio sees it. Yeah, Tessio says, if I don't make this deal with Bozzini, if I'm not on his side, you know, I have to do this. I have no choice.
Hold on a minute. Tom said to Michael he thought it was going to be Clemenza.
He thought it was going to be Clemenza, yes.
Now that shows you his lack of not intelligence, but his lack of the ability to read these people. The ability to read these people. He lacked the ability to read these people, and he should have been able to read that, having grown up right next to them. He should have known better on that one. Because if we can see it, you know.
Yeah.
Again,
I don't know why Tom. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know why Tom would think it was Clemenza, other than the fact that he saw Tessio as being more loyal and more. I don't know.
I'll give you my thought on why. I think it's
subservient. I don't know.
I don't know. You know, I think it goes back to Michael was right, and goes back to Michael's decision on not having Tom go through this. I think Michael was right. That cosigns the move Michael made in having Tom removed for a minute. Well, you know, at that time. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it could be.
It all comes together.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was a bad call by Tom.
Yeah.
He should know it by.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, here's what I hear. I think it's just Tom expressing his feelings. Like he just thought it would have been him. He knew the Don's advice. He knew the Don's advice that whoever the traitor will reveal himself, because he's the one that's going to come and make the deal. So he knew that. He knew that already. It's not like he would argue the point and say, "Oh, it's not Tessio because he's loyal." I think Tom is just expressing his opinion as to how he thought those people would act in general based on their character. I think that's all he was saying.
Well, here's a question for you, and all of us. Leading up to it, who would you think it would be leading up to it? We said Tessio. I mean, obviously.
Well, I would have thought it would have been Carlo. Actually, that's who I thought.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a whole other situation. But
Right.
Yeah. I would have never picked Clemenza. Never.
I would have never picked.
No, I don't think so. Either. I don't think I would pick Clemenza either. No,
I wouldn't know.
No. Mm-mm.
Clemenza too solid.
No, he's the loyal thug. He's the loyal thug.
Yeah.
He's there.
Yes.
He's one step above Luca Brasi. You know, like one step above Luca Brasi.
Yeah, you're right.
Even when they were younger, you know, in the upcoming Godfather, Clemenza was always the guy with the gun. Oh, you know, he was going to shoot the cop when they were stealing the rug.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You remember? He was that guy, Clemenza. That was that's what he enjoyed.
Right.
He was a hitman.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I think he liked to follow orders more than pursue his own stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
That's simple. For some men like that, that's simple money.
Yeah.
That's it. You ain't got to punch a clock. You ain't got to do nothing but go do it.
I mean, remember, the only reason they want to start their own family is because the Don and Michael, because the Corleones are leaving. That's the only reason. And Clemenza even says that. I would never think to do this. I would never think to do this until now because you guys are leaving, basically.
No,
Can we
you
start
got to
over?
remember another thing. Tessio and Clemenza. Now, Clemenza ain't probably thinking about it, but Tessio is. Michael is bringing the family, leaving. That gives Tessio the perfect chance to take over the whole city. Even with Michael gone.
Yeah.
He's thinking, I could ride the Godfather and this whole thing out. I could take over the whole city once this bum gets out of here. He ain't doing nothing for me. Clemenza will follow me.
Right.
That's what he was thinking. Put it all together like we're doing.
Right.
Tessio was sharp.
Yeah.
And they probably still think as Michael as a little kid or a kid, right?
Oh, yeah, kid.
Yeah. So they
Yeah.
thought it was going to be easier than what wound up happening. So
that was an easy takeover for Tessio.
Now, here's another thing that's interesting is the fact that in the book, they talk about a little bit more detail in terms of when Tessio and Clemenza want to break off. And when they break off, they're going to form their own family. Like, it won't be the Corleone family. It will be completely different. Corleones would be completely divested. They're completely divested from East Coast. So they'll be completely gone. In Godfather 2, when Pentangeli, comes that Pentangeli is still part of the Corleones. He's still he's the East Coast version of the Corleones. And that's because Clemenza ends up staying. When Tessio gets kicked out, right? When Tessio gets the garrote or whatever he gets, they don't even show you what happens to Tessio. He goes off, but
that's the best.
Yeah. Does the book tell you what happened or no?
I don't know. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen it.
Never tells you. No,
yeah.
He just disappears.
It's a mystery.
Tessio.
Yeah. But anyway, Clemenza, as a result of that, stays with the Corleones. He stays with the Corleones. He doesn't break off and find his own band. So it goes to what we were saying about how Tessio was the thinker and the motivator, the person that would run the family. Clemenza, with Tessio out, Clemenza just stays with the Corleone. He stays as the Corleones, and Pentangeli is his underboss, and and all that stuff. And then Clemenza dies and all that. So it just goes to show to what we were saying, how Clemenza is, the loyal kind of guy that doesn't want to think big. He just wants to do his thing and take orders, so to speak.
And it's so funny. You just said Pentangeli. He was the same mole coming up like Clemenza was.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Pentangeli just wanted what was his in New York. Michael this, Michael that, same thing. He was a kid. This kid don't fucking listen. These fucking kids, what I mean?
Right. I mean, we could talk about Pentangeli in the future, and we probably will, but I mean, he's like the most tragic figure of the entire series to me, because he was just manipulated and taken advantage of, and ends up, having to off himself. I mean, it just.
Let me ask you this question: do you think that Tessio or Clemenza thought that the Don, did they have any kind of hope that they would be able to take over the family rather than Michael, or do you think there was never a chance and they knew that?
I think Clemenza. Well, here's the thing. I think they knew the Corleones. The Corleones was a family thing, right? So the Don had 3 sons. It was bound that one of them was going to be the next Don. So I don't think they ever planned or wanted to take it over. I think Tessio would jump at a chance if it was available. He would definitely jump at that chance.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was ever something they thought or strived for. That would be my opinion. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, but Tessio was setting it up for that, though.
Because of the circumstances, though. That's the difference, Tom.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? He wouldn't go out and do this on his own. It was because of the circumstances.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Which is what the Godfather always taught people too, right? You have to do what's best in the circumstances, under the what's best for you, what's best for your family under the circumstances, and that's what he's doing. He sees that he has no choice. He's got to make the deal with Bazzini. Bazzini at this point, remember, Bazzini is the most powerful family. The Corleones have never fully recovered from the war. Bazzini here's why Bazzini is the most powerful, because The D'Italias took all the hits from the war. The D'Italias took the hammering. Bazzini's people never took a hit in the war. They're as strong as they ever were, even though Bazzini was the puppet master behind the scenes, causing everything. His family never took a hit, and they just kept expanding. While the D'Italias are taking all the actual hits from the Corleones during the war, Bazzini's not. Bazzini's kind of staying back, and as a result, he's the most powerful Don at this time. So here's obviously the next scene obviously is the pinnacle of the movie, which is the hits on the five families.
That's the next scene, right?
Right.
That's gonna be a good one.
It's gonna be, I mean, definitely that's gonna be a good one. I was gonna ask something about it, but I forgot what I was gonna ask. But I think it's just that the five families, so basically here's my question leading up to our next episode. Does Michael have to arrange these hits, or does he do it out of revenge for what was done to him and his family?
Well, we'll discuss that next week.
That's what we're going to get. That's going to be one of the things we're going to talk about next week, as well as describing what went on and such like that.
That's going to be good.
So let me just see in the chat here if anyone. Let's see. See No Evil. Do you think the characters are based on? Do you think the characters are based on Lucky Carlo and Vito era? You mean Lucky Luciano? Is that what you mean? Who's Lucky Carlo?
Lucky and Carlo Gambino.
He's talking real life. It's not based on real life.
Gambino. Oh, okay. Gambino. Got it. Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it's based on anything.
I don't think so. I think we've talked about this. We've talked about this before, is that they're composites of real people. They're not directly. I think Mo Green is the only person that was based specifically on a real life character. If you read the book, it's identical. He's identical to Bugsy Siegel, but the rest of them, I think, are just mold. They're composites. They're real life people that have been molded and changed. Taking bits and pieces. I don't think you can line people up and say like the Godfather was, Lucky Luciano, and you can't do that. I don't think you can do that.
And Brando was only like in his 40s doing this, like in late 40s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he they did a nice job, and so did he for that matter, all around with his character. So,
well, I mean, the acting was stupendous. That goes without saying. I mean, they all did, because, and that's the key thing. I mean, and we've never really talked about this, but when you're watching that movie, you think, I'm at least I do. I get the feeling that I'm watching reality because of the way they act. They're not.
Right.
There's no bad actors at all there. I mean, the worst. I think the worst acting was when Santino was punching Carlo. I mean, that was like the worst part of the movie.
That was the worst.
Yeah. So verbally, it was great acting. Obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Physically, it could have been improved a few spots there. Yeah.
But the emotional responses and how they did their lines and how they interacted, it was like watching reality to me. It just
right.
It wasn't. It didn't feel scripted.
Right. Scripted like all our shows are.
That was my little zing. Sorry.
What? My show ain't scripted.
Joey Dell. That's a good comment, Joey.
Mine either.
Joey Della Mora says the Godfather is unique. There will be comparisons made, but in my opinion, it's coincidental. Yes, I think that's absolutely correct. I think Puzo and Coppola molded characters based on reality, but the characters themselves are unique.
Yeah.
Characters, yeah.
It was a good combination of everything. Everybody knocked it out of the park. You know what I mean? The writing, the acting, the filming. I mean, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really. It can't be that many criticisms about the production of everything. So
no, not at all.
There isn't any. I've never even seen a bad one.
Right. And that's hard to do. All these actors and stuff these days and since then have probably tried to make something close to that, and it's very, very tough. There's really not much you could say that is gonna, compare to this, these set of movies. So,
and I think a lot of people don't like Godfather 3, and I think that's because they compare it to the first two. If that movie stays alone on its own, it's a great movie. But when you compare it to the other two, which are classics that you can't be meet, people kind of say, it wasn't so.
I loved it, but I didn't compare it, but I did love it. I could watch it 100 times. I loved it, but I won't compare it. There's some powerful scenes in 3. Powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I mean, and then you had Coppola's daughter, which was kind of bad actress. It's like she was kind of the worst part of that movie.
Right,
Coppola's daughter.
That's the problem.
But the story was good. It was a great story. I mean, it was, you just can't compare it to the other two. It was a different time period. You can't compare it. It
was good though. I liked it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see if there's any other comments that I wanted to address or highlight here.
See, 1 and 2 got no criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
No bad reviews on 1 and 2. Can you imagine that? Nothing.
Nope. You're right.
Then you come to 3 and you get a mix of everything.
Right.
And I remember seeing 3. It was Christmas night, midnight showing.
Really?
I went after work.
It was a
how far after was 3 then 2?
2 years?
No.
No.
Oh, 3. I'm sorry. I don't know.
3 then 2. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. 1 and 2.
When was 3? It was in the 90s.
1990.
Right? 90, yeah. So it's like what, 18 years? 18 years after?
Years later.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They waited 18 years for Godfather 3.
Right. So
that's probably another big reason. Yeah, and that's another big reason why it probably got criticism. You got all new people watching, and the times changed, and it's just all different.
Yep.
Yeah, a whole generation changed going into the movie theater. Yeah.
Yep.
You have 2 new decades. New decades of people
Right.
and kids going.
Yeah, a lot of the old timers that were old when 1 and 2 came out were probably gone, and they didn't have the chance to see the third one. And now we got a whole new crowd of critics, judging.
The bad reviews have to come from at least a 10-year gap. Got to be a 10-year gap in age. Because if you're going to the movies to see The Godfather 3, and if you're not culturally connected or have an understanding deeply of 1 and 2, you're not going to grab onto 3. You're going to take it, and you're not going to even know what's going on.
Right.
Right.
So 10 years is a lot. You're talking 20 years almost. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a long time.
2 decades.
Yeah,
2 decades. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah. That is a lot.
That's like going from 1940 to 1960.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big change.
Perfect.
Yep.
Whole different world of people.
Gianni comes in now. Thanks, Gianni.
Yeah.
Gianni.
He comes in at 3:01. Well, hello to you, Gianni.
You can go back and watch. Make sure you go back. Give the watch hour. Go back, please. Let it play.
So, but anyway, look, I think we did a great job of dissecting these 3 scenes, and it really set us up for the pinnacle, which is next time when we see how it all comes together and how it sets up Godfather 2, basically. It just, and that's the other thing. It flows so perfectly. Everything flows so perfectly. I don't know. In terms of Godfather 2, is there a book? I've never even seen a book that says Godfather 2. I don't even know if there is one. I have to look for it.
Gotta ask the Googles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because there's some things in the book that are in Godfather 2. Like there's some things in the book that they put in Godfather 2, but the whole stuff about Pantangeli and all that, and none of that. I mean, I don't know where that came from. If it's just written on the scene, I don't know how that came about. I'd have to look into that and see. But anyway, so this was another good time. I want to thank you guys, and thank you, Godfather, for joining us.
Thank you. It was great.
It was great to have you here.
Happy to be here, guys.
All right, guys.
And thanks to everyone in the chat who participated. You're part of this, so it makes it better. You participate, we love it. So please continue to do that. And if I want to wish everybody a great Sunday.
Yep.
What time is it? It's macaroni time.
Right now, macaroni's coming down right now.
Happy Halloween.
And that's right.
Macaroni's
Happy
coming
Halloween to everyone too. So God bless everyone, and thank you once again for joining.
See you later, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Later, everyone.
Stay on, guys. Stay on, guys.
Yeah, guys, stay on here. I'll shut the screen down.
Lucky you said something.
Yep.